Joining me on the line to discuss this week's past events is Allan Von Mehren, Chief Analyst at Danske Bank in Denmark. So Allan, Russia's trade surplus decreased to $8.7 billion in August, largely due to a slump in exports. Do you anticipate a repeated decline in the September data?
Yeah, I think the Russian economy and the exports are under pressure a lot at the moment. Russia is also hit by all the turmoil we've had in emerging markets in general over the summer, and seeing falling demand from China and other emerging markets as well. So I think the export sector is going to struggle still also in the coming months.
We saw positive data from the UK, which confirmed the labour market recovery is back on track after the dip in employment in the spring. Mark Carney previously said that the BOE would look at the unemployment figures rather than inflation when considering a rate hike. However, inflation turned negative again in September. So in your opinion, what are the next steps for the BOE?
Yeah, I think they're going to wait a bit before they start raising rates. I mean, the unemployment rate has become quite low, but I think overall they also look at what are the underlying inflation pressures, and commodity prices have fallen a lot, which is easing a bit on the inflation outlook. And at the same time, we do see some signs that the UK economy is slowing a bit, the service sector showing signs that it's weakening, and then we have all the uncertainty in the global economy on top of that. So the fact that inflation is still so low, it's buying them some time, and I think also maybe they want to see the Fed move before they do. At least they would be more comfortable with that. So I think they're going to, still the labor market is doing fine, but they want other pieces to be in place also before they start raising rates.
US data out this week showed the economy could be losing momentum as retail sales barely rose in September and producer prices recorded their biggest decline in 8 months. With that being said, do you think that this data alone will put the Fed off raising interest rates this year?
Well, I think this data, and I think also the next couple of months, will show a bit more weakness in the US. I think the manufacturing sector is also taking a hit from the turmoil in emerging markets and seeing less demand from emerging markets. And on top of that, you have a pretty strong dollar. And then we are seeing some softer signs, as you say, in retail sales. So I think in the short term, the data is going to be on the soft side, and I think that's going to keep the Fed from hiking rates this year and push it into next year.
Eurozone trade balance widened much less than expected today. What were the main factors behind the less than impressive reading?
Yeah, it was mostly a decline in exports that was behind this. Yeah, I think European economy is also going to feel the slowdown in emerging markets, and I think the recovery in Europe has been very much consumer-driven so far, and I think the consumers are still spending money, but maybe not as fast a pace as earlier in the year. And then on top of that, you have all the uncertainty regarding emerging markets, and I think that's also going to weigh a bit on investments. So I think the European economy is in a bit of a soft patch, which could last for a couple of quarters.
And to finish up, were there any other standout events for you this week? And what would you suggest investors to keep a close eye on next week?
Yeah, I think we had some Chinese data on the credit growth, and they are suggesting that the monetary easing in China is starting to feed through to more lending, and it normally means that investment growth is going to bottom. So I think, on the margin there was some slightly positive news out of China, which I think is quite important for overall sentiment also. And regarding next week, I think we have some flash PMIs coming out of Europe, which I think will be quite important. We might start to see some impact there from the Volkswagen scandal, and that's definitely something that should be kept an eye on.
Allan, thank you very much for your comments. It was great to speak to you. And traders, thank you for tuning in. Have a good weekend ahead.